Thanks, Laura. That was awesome. Sorry, that's a bit loud. Welcome, everybody, to Twig Ninja Tactics. My name's Jack Taranto. I'm a front-end developer with Previous Next. I've been doing front-end development for about 11 years. Seems like a long time saying that. So yeah, who's this talk for? It's mostly for front-end developers, but I think there's a lot of stuff in it for back-end developers. I was thinking it's intermediate, but it's maybe intermediate advanced, something like that. But yeah, you're going to learn how to be an aspiring ninja. It's going to cover style guide driven development mostly, so there's going to be a bit of KSS node stuff in here as well. There's going to be a BEM component. There's a field formatter with settings, and it's going to be doing dry with Twig, templating language. And I'm going to do it all via a technical demonstration. So we'll see how this goes. So if you can kind of follow my mouse cursor around the screen, I think that'll work out. So this is just like a vanilla spin-up of KSS node. I've got one component here, and it's a collapsible accordion type thing. It's shown here in the default styling. I've got some JavaScript which is embedded in KSS node, and it's making it open and close. And I've got a little modifier class here, which has got like a mini version. So we've got two versions of it, one component. So yeah, that's it there in KSS node. So let's jump in and have a look at the actual makeup. Yeah, cool. So in the sidebar here, you can see I'm inside my theme directory. I've got a source directory here, which is where all my components live. And here's my collapsible component here. It's made up of a bunch of different files because it's a fairly simple component, but it's got a bit of interactivity to it. The heart of the component is the SAS file itself, and this gets compiled out to a CSS file which lives in the same directory. You can see at the top of the SAS file, I'm using this KSS node notation, which adds my modifier class in. So that's what KSS node uses to go and build out the component when it's creating the style guide. I won't go into this too much, but this is just like a kind of an example of how I write components. I've got some colors defined at the top using the chroma module. I've got, just, a whole bunch of basic stuff here. Down the bottom, I've got my mini modifier there, which just changes how a bunch of stuff looks. So that's the SAS file. Moving on, I've got a JavaScript widget file, which is using jQuery UI widget factory. This is kind of, it kind of makes the JavaScript a little bit easier to deal with. It gives us states which we can access, so I can open and close the dialog, the collapsible, from a separate piece of JavaScript. And this is kind of fairly extensive. I won't go into it exactly, but it's got a few niceties, like it's working with ARIA attributes, and there's also a bunch of keyboard stuff in there as well. I've got a Drupal JavaScript file, which is really just a wrapper. It's using Drupal behaviors to call our collapsible JavaScript on a specific element. Other than that, I've just got a SVG file, which gives me the graphics. And then the core of it, which is what I'm going to go into now, is the Twig file itself. So this Twig file has got a few things happening with it. You can see right off the bat that it's just a standard BEM component. We've got the block, which is the main wrapper. It's got a JavaScript class on it, which lets the Drupal.js call it. It's got a modifier, being the modifier class here. That's what KSS uses. That's like a KSS variable. It uses that to inject the class, which was listed at the top of the CSS file. And then I've got these two blocks. I've got title and content. So that's the that's the two elements in the BEM. So that's the E in the BEM. So that's the title and the content, and they're expressed in Twig blocks. So I'll kind of go into that a little bit later. And in order to kind of package up the component itself, I'm using a Drupal library. So that's it here. It's calling, it's adding my CSS file, it's adding my JavaScript, and then it's adding these chunky dependencies that the JavaScript needs. So if you want more info on this, definitely check out Ricky's talk tomorrow. She's going to go into it in a lot more detail. So yeah, from here, like that's all well and good. We've got our component. It's kind of packaged up. I'm using this attach library function, which is a Drupal Twig function, to attach the library. So it's kind of ready to go at this point in time. Like the main thing I need to do now is make it reusable, so we can spread it out and use it all over a site. So to do that, this is just one example. You can kind of use it you can really use this technique in a whole bunch of different ways, but this is just one example of how to do that. I'm using a field formatter. So this is just a content type here with a body field, and I've got this collapsible formatter. And you can see I've got some settings here as well. So like I can edit the formatter. I can choose the two different displays, the normal mode and the mini mode. I can add a custom label for the collapsible, and it all links off as well, so you can actually see, you know, the collapsible, where it lives and what it looks like in the style guide. So yeah, if I update that and save it out, this is just a demo node here, refresh it. So yeah, I've turned my body field into a collapsible. So how am I doing that? Well, it's all a field formatter. So that lives inside a module here. This is my field formatter. It's called collapsible formatter. So yeah, going through this, I've got a few different functions inside this. This is really building it out, and it's using a theme function here. So I'll take a look at that in a second. I've got some settings as well. So it's adding the title. It's adding the style setting as well. So yeah, there's the settings summary. This is the settings form, which adds the label and it gives you a drop down. So I've got the class for the modifier as part of that config there. Yeah, I've just got a basic hook theme function, which adds my collapsible formatter template, and with the 3 different variables that are going to be used. And here is kind of the cool stuff. So this is the formatter template file that I've set up with the hook theme function, and it's using a Twig embed. And an embed in Twig is like a mix between an include and an extend. It allows you to extend a template with variables. So I've got here the modifier class variable, and it's adding in that style theme setting, which I just showed you. And the use of that modifier class ties in with KSS as really well as well. So you've got like KSS adding the modifier class, and then now you've got the formatter adding it as well. And then here are the 2 blocks. So this is telling me to render, telling Twig to render the title field inside the title block, and then the content of the field is going to get rendered in the content block. So if I go back into my Twig template here, you'll see I've got like the title and the content blocks there. So yeah, like why is this cool? Well, this is a separate template, but it's actually just including the template I've already got. So if I need to change the markup, which you often do, the canonical source for that is always inside the style guide. It's inside the component directory. You only need to pick it and change it in one place, and then it's just going to get replicated out wherever you've used it. And if you use the embed tag, then you can take like any template in Drupal and embed components wherever you like. There's one sort of slightly tricky thing here that you need to do. You need to use the components library module from John Album, which you add a couple of lines to the bottom of your theme's info file. It really just lets you use your theme Twig namespace to load in like different directories other than the templates directory. So that's where that namespace comes in at the top. So, so yeah, you don't need to run out the whole path. You can just use your theme's namespace, and then you can jump straight into the components directory. Yeah, so that's it really. That's all I've got. Yeah, I think I've got time, probably got time for some questions, so fire away.
Just a couple of real quick ones. The custom formatter, that was just a vanilla plugin for Drupal, so that you just do the right documentation and it'll just discover it?
Yeah, that's right. So I'll just give you a better look at it. It's just a standard field
and is that
formatter base, yeah.
Gotcha. So that's new. Yeah. That's good.
So you can specify the field types and flesh it out there, yeah.
Yep. And the second one is KSS is SRC, is the source directory, is that the base of KSS? Like
yeah, that's what I've specified as the base, yeah. So I used to use SAS as the name, and then we just changed the source because now there's a whole lot more stuff going on there, yeah.
Yeah, that embed stuff is really cool. How do you go about doing that when you've got a really complex Twig template with lots of different variables kind of slotting into, say if you had like a link URL and title and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, well basically you want to use a block anytime you've got HTML tags to throw in, and then if it's just a straight up string, well then you use a variable. So it doesn't really matter how complicated your template is. So yeah, I've got HTML inside this block here. So that could be any HTML you want. And then that modifier class is just a string variable. So I think as long as you're just doing that, you can flesh this out and make that as big as you need to. You can have as many blocks as you want and as many variables as you need, yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Further questions? Cool. All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Apes.